ونعوذ بالله من شرور انفسنا ومن سيئات اعمالنا من يهديه الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له واشهد ان لا اله الا الله وحده لا شريك له واشهد ان محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى ال محمد كما صليت على ابراهيم وعلى ال ابراهيم انك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى ال محمد كما باركت على ابراهيم وعلى ال ابراهيم في العالمين انك حميد مجيد. أما بعد, we'll continue with a set of lines of poetry from الدرة الفاخرة في منظومة السيد الله تبارك وتعالى by الإمام السعدي رحمه الله about the path to the hereafter, the path to Jannah, and how to be steadfast on this path and how to seek the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala till reaching this final destination. And the characteristics of the believers, those who are the people of Jannah. And the last thing we talked about is dhikr, the level of dhikr, the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the virtues of this. And that dhikr is a way of life. It's not an action just to be done, but it's rather a way of life. Once a person is in this level, he will continue to be in remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with one's heart and tongue. Then after that, he continued saying, يتقربون إلى المليك بفعلهم طاعته والترك للعصيان. That the believers, they seek closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, يتقربون. They seek the closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala إلى المليك, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the king of all kings, the owner of all things, بفعلهم, by their actions. This is how they seek the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or for them to be close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not by wishful thinking, but by their actions, فعلهم, by their actions, طاعته, doing the act of obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَالتَّرْكِ لِلْعَصْيَانِ, and to leave and to be away from the disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he talks here about the ta'a and the asyan, two opposite things. The obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the opposite of that is the disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the mean for the believers to take to get themselves closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the way they are in this life, when they are close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with their actions like this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward them from the same sort of deed that they used to do, by their intentions. As they say, al-jaza'u min jins al-amal, the reward is given from the same sort of deed that a person do. A person doing that for the sake of Allah, to get himself closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the reward will be, they will enter Jannah. Jannah is the place where the believers are close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. On top of the Jannah is the arsh, is the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the best reward of the people of Jannah is not just the holy al-'ain and the food and so on. The best reward is that they are close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Jannah, and they will get to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Jannah. This is the ultimate joy, that there is nothing more joyful for the believers than this. So the same way they were getting themselves closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they will be close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the hereafter. And the only way that a person will be close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, again, it's not because of his lineage, or because he belongs to a certain group, or he is from the progeny of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or anything of that nature. The thing that would get the person closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is بِفِعْلِهِمْ طَاعَتِهِ وَتَرْكِ الْعَصْيَانِ, to do the obedience, the act of obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to leave the disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And all of that is known by, of course, the way of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. And in this is the famous hadith Qudsi, وَمَا تَقَرَّبَ إِلَيَّ عَبْدِي بِشَيْءٍ أحب إلي مما افترضته عليه, that my slave would never draw himself, وما تقرب, the same word, that he would never draw himself closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by something more beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than what he had made it obligatory on us. So the obligatory acts are the most beloved deeds to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that would get the person close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they don't just do that, but they also add to this the optional acts of worship. ولا يزال عبدي يتقرب إلي بالنوافل, يتقرب, ولا يزال عبدي يتقرب. The word يتقرب is used. that my slave will continue to get himself closer to me. So, taqarrub ila Allah, right? This is a very important meaning. That in this life we seek to be close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with our actions. And in this hadith says that my slave will continue to get himself closer to me by the acts of acts of worship till I love him. And if I love him, then I become his hearing that he hear with, and so on. So the issue of at-taqarrub ila Allah, that we do the acts of obedience, we leave sins, so that we get ourselves closer and closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And once the more the person is closer to Allah, the more he completes his iman, the more that he would have the joy of this life and in the hereafter. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is shakur. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is shakur, meaning grateful. He does not need our actions, but when a person is obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and is away from sins, Allah reward him by giving him the joy of this life and in the hereafter. So again, this is the way. Because some people, they think it's only by wishful thinking or by being from the lineage of this or that. It doesn't work this way. It's our actions by being obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and leaving sins or the disobedience to Allah. And there's no difference between one or the other. There's no level where a person reaches, and then that's it. He does not have to do what people do. Everybody is the same, and the best example, of course, is the example of the Prophet ﷺ. Then he continued with the same saying, فعل الفرائض والنوافل دأبهم مع رؤية التقصير والنقصان, which means they do فعل الفرائض. فعل is action. الفرائض is the plural of فرض. They do the actions of obligations. والنوافل, the nafl, and the optional acts of worship. دأبهم. What's دأبهم means? This is their way of life. It's something that they used to, so that it becomes part of them, right? And that's why Qiyamul Layl, for example, is Da'bus Salihin. The night prayer is the way of the Salihin, is the way of the righteous. This is part of them, right? So doing the obligations and the optional acts of worship is not once in a while. It's Da'buhum, meaning that this is their way of life. And that's why any actions in the deen of Islam, you would find that it's done in a consistent manner. The sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ كان إذا عمل عملا أثبته عليه الصلاة والسلام. Whenever he would do an action, he would keep it. He would continue to do it. Prophet ﷺ, from his way, that he did not used to do things once in a while. Whenever he would do something, he would continue to do it. So when we think of the acts of worship, the fara'id, of course, it's something that is in a consistent manner, and also the optional acts of worship. And as the hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha, أحب الأعمال إلى الله أدومها وإن قل, that the most beloved deeds to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are the ones that are done consistently, even if it's little. Fard, there's no such a thing as little and much. It's the fard has to be done in the most perfect way. The nawafil, the optional acts of worship, the key word to it is the consistency, not the quantity. It's the consistency. So if a person wants to start memorizing the Quran, right? He should not start with the quantity. This is a big mistake for someone to do this, because this is what the nafs, what the human being wants to do, and then he would give up after some time. He should focus on the consistency. Is he going to be doing it every day? If you do a word every day, if you do an ayah every day, whatever you do, if it's done every day, if you do this act of worship, that everyday thing, after some time, it becomes his norm, then the quantity will increase definitely. But the focus is the consistency. This by itself is an act of worship. And the same thing with the nawafil, with the salah, with the dhikr, with anything that a person do, the key to it is to be done in a consistent manner and to know the levels of the deeds. Again, the fard, we do it, everybody is the same in this. This is the minimum requirement. Optional acts of worship, it's very important for each person to know what is best for him. That he should do all the different acts of optional acts of worship, little things from all kinds, but then where is the area that he needs to spend more? Right? Because there's many hadith that talk, some of the people are from the people of salah, some people are from the people of fasting, some of the people are from the people of charity. And when you hear the hadith of the virtues of seeking knowledge, that this is the most virtuous thing to be taught, And what is more priority? Is it the night prayer, for example, or to seek knowledge and to learn matters of the deen? And you would find that the sayings of the ulama is to seek knowledge is more priority than the night prayer. But does that mean that the person would leave the night prayer altogether? No, but that's different than someone, for example, is not seeking knowledge. He would do more of the night prayer if this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it easy for him. And like for Rabi'at al-Ra'i, for example, and one of the students of one of the shuyukh of Imam Malik rahimahullah, he said that if a person finds in himself that he can seek knowledge, as he said, فَلَا يُضَيَّعْ عُمُرَهُ أو كما قال, he should not waste his life. If he finds himself that he can seek knowledge, he can benefit himself this way and be a source of benefit to others, he should not waste his life. It's a waste of life. If a person has the talent, has the means, and he doesn't seek the knowledge, this is a waste of life. But it is not mandatory for everybody to be seekers of knowledge. But then those who are not seeking knowledge, then they should be busy with matters of ibadah, following the people of knowledge, but they are busy, what do they occupy their time with? Then it should be with matters of ibadah and so on, but the key is the consistency. So they do the fara'id and the nawafil, this is da'buhum, they do that all the time. And of course, for a person to do it in a consistent manner, he will definitely or she need to be continuously, consistency, asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for help. That's why we would find the significance of the dua, Allahumma a'inni ala dhikrika wa shukrika wa husni ibadatik. It's easy to make the ibadah once in a while when you feel like it. But to ask the help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to do the ibadah in the most perfect way, that's when the consistency comes in place. Because the nafs, as a normal thing, has its iqbal and idbar. It has its times where you find it very easy to do the acts of worship and you're helped to do this, and sometimes you don't feel like doing anything. That's a normal thing. It's not a sign of hypocrisy or anything. This is human nature. So, but then when a person doesn't feel like doing anything, does he stop all the different good deeds that he do, or he still do it even if it's little? Of course, fard, there's no compromisation in this, and a person should not indulge into sins when he's in that state. And what will be affected is the nawafil, maybe a little bit decreased, a little bit, but continuously to be there. But some people, when they have this downtime, if it's correct to say, they would commit sins, they would neglect the fard. This is definitely an evil thing. So they do these things, consistency, the fard and the nafl, with a very important attitude. مع رؤية التقصير والنقصان. While they are witnessing in themselves that they have shortcomings. They're not doing it in the most perfect way. And it's deficient. This is a healthy way to look into one's actions, as long as it will make the person perfect his deed all the time. It becomes a negative thing if it makes the person give up. Makes the person say, I'm no good, I cannot do it. So the shaitan would whisper to him to give up the matters of ibadah. He keeps trying, but he can't get what he is seeking in the most perfect way. Then definitely this is a bad attitude. But the good attitude is to always look into ourselves. Yes, we are deficient. We have so much deficiency in our acts of worship that makes the person more humble. No arrogance, no ujb, no liking his actions that make him lose the reward of the actions, but instead to humble oneself. And that's why the istighfar, as we mentioned before, to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness. Almost at the end of every ibadah, you will find that this is the way of the Prophet ﷺ because of this. Because we would witness the deficiency in our ibadah, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most high, the most perfect, His ni'am, His bounties, are endless bounties. And for us to be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we can never attain that whatsoever. And we are full of deficiencies and evil within our own selves. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most merciful. So رؤية التقصير والنقصان, رؤية meaning that you see it. You have to see it with your own eyes. Once a person starts praising himself, he doesn't have to say it. But once between himself like this, he likes so much his actions, that he is better than so many people, that he's making salah on time, that he's making night prayer, that this and that, this is a bad sign. And that's different than being grateful to Allah. Being grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a good thing. That Allah had guided you, that Allah had made it easy for you to do certain things that others are not doing this is being grateful to Allah. That's with humbleness. That a person would know that if it wasn't from the help from Allah, he would not be able to do it. But still it's deficient, it's not still perfect. So he would continuously perfect one's action, and knowing that sins can affect the ibadah, and it does affect the ibadah in a direct way. So constantly asking Allah for forgiveness, constantly witnessing the deficiency in our actions, so that a person will humble himself and seek forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it takes away from the ujb, purify the heart from the ujb, liking oneself and arrogance and so on. So this is their way with regards to the deeds, the actions. Then he talks about another quality, and this is again in brief. He says, صبر النفوس على المكاره كلها شوقا إلى ما فيه من إحسان. They do these acts of worship. Doing it, it's not something that you would find yourself doing it at matters of ease all the time. Human nature tends to be lazy, tends to not to be doing these types of things by itself like this. So they have to have sabr. Sabr nufus. They make the nufus, the nafs, their being in state of sabr. And the sabr, as the definition of it, حبس النفس على ما يكره الإنسان إذا كان فيه رضا الرحمن. When you حبس النفس, حبس means when you prison something, right? So مات صبرا, when somebody is killed صبرا, that means he is being imprisoned and not given any food or drink till he died. That's one of the worst things to be done to someone, right? He's not just imprisoning him, he's starving to death. So the same word is used. Of course, this is not the same thing, but it means that you prison yourself, imprison yourself. You know, this is what it literally means or says. In things that you would not necessarily like or desire, if it's something that pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's not imprisoning yourself, it's basically making sure that we do what is right, making sure that we do what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants. Our desires might not incline towards in the beginning, but we do it because this is what is right. Human beings, if a person would think that this is religion difficult, or a person he hears something like that, human beings, they do that in their normal life. They go to work when they don't desire to go. They go there because this is the right thing to be done. Life is like this. People have to do the right thing, otherwise they would not live a normal life. A person might desire a nice car that is on the streets. Can he just go break in and take the car and leave? He desires it, he wants it. But he would not do that because this is not the right thing to be done. Right? So he would have sabr. Right? He would have sabr not to do something evil like that. And, so the sabr is something that human beings, they have. They endure patience. Disbelievers, believers, everybody, they endure some form of patience of what they're seeking. And this is the difference between human beings and others. The believers, they do that for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, doing the things that pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this makarih, or these disliked things, they would do it if it's known with the knowledge that this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from them. شوقا إلى ما فيه من إحسان. They do that shawqan. Shawqan means with the eagerness, seeking what of goodness as a result of this, which is the Jannah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to fulfill the purpose of their life. And that's why, as it's mentioned many times before, sabr is three types. Sabr on the obedience of Allah, sabr to be away from the sins, disobedience of Allah, and the sabr in matters of calamities or things that from the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that happens. These are three types. The first two are higher level than the third one. The third one is a necessity. If you don't, your life will be miserable. So you would work on yourself to have patience if something bad happens. But the first two, this is something that comes with your choice. That's why it's of a high level. That's why, as Shaykh Sam Taymiyyah rahimahullah, he said that the sabr of Yusuf alayhi salam facing the wife of Al-Aziz, right, was of a higher level of rewards than his sabr, than his patience when he was thrown into the well. Both sabr, he endured patience. But when he was thrown into the well, this is a patience that He has no other choice but to be there. But the other one, he had a choice, whether to have patience to be away from the sin or to follow his desires, and he chose not to, and he endured patience by his choice. That's why this is a high level, and this is what he was praised as a result of that in the Quran till the day of judgment. So the part that we choose to have the patience and to be away from the sins and disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the believers, they have to have sabr. There's no iman without sabr. Half of the iman is sabr. As this is with the consensus of this ummah, as Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah, he said, الصبر واجب بإجماع الأمة. It's wajib, it's mandatory. It's not an optional thing. And it's half of the iman. And the other half is to be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So al-iman nisfu sabr wa nisf shukr. One half sabr, one half shukr, being grateful to Allah. And that's why the best fasting is the fasting of Dawood alayhi salam. He used to fast one day and not fast the other day. So he fast every other day. That means his life is like half sabr and half shukr. Fasting is the acts of worship of sabr. Then the being grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is of course something optional, but the point is this is half of the iman, to endure patience. Without it, a person can never do what pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then after the sabr, of a higher level than that is al-rida, is to have al-rida, is to be pleased, which is another level. It's a higher level than al-sabr. نزلوا بمنزلة الرضا فهم بها قد أصبحوا في جنة وأمان. They نزلوا, meaning they sat down or they settled in the level of al-rida. Al-rida is to be pleased, is to be satisfied, which is a higher level than sabr. And this level of al-rida, when a person is always pleased, he's not enduring patience anymore, right? He's just pleased, he's happy. Even if calamity comes, he's not like, having a party as a result of, death and calamities. No, this is against human nature. But the level of rida in their hearts, they witness the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in everything. So even if there is a calamity happening to the person, he witnesses that this is by the most wise subhanahu wa ta'ala, so they are pleased. It's not that they're enjoying the pain, no, but they are on that level of being pleased with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed for them. And again, this is a higher level of sabr. Sabr is wajib, is mandatory for everyone. It is haram to do anything against sabr. But a higher level, which is not necessarily mandatory, is al-rida, to be always in that state of being pleased. There is no struggling with oneself as much as it is with the sabr. And for a person to reach this level, he has to go through the sabr first. So it does not happen by switch, right? You have to go through the struggle first. You have to go through the sabr. And a person will endure patience and continue to endure patience till Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward them, that he become in that level of al-rida, to be always pleased. And this is the real happiness in this life. Because life is full of all kinds of things, munabisat, things that a person doesn't like. Either he will die or someone else will die. Either he will get sick or a loved one will get sick. This is how life is. And it's just, we're living at a stage of one's life that health and wealth and things like that. Inshallah, this is a great ni'mah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but one day we all will depart from this life. So the wise person is the one that would live this life according to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants. So manzilat al-rida, they become in it fi jannatin wa aman. This is the jannah of this life, is to be in the level of al-rida. Why? Because a person is always pleased. And this is where some of the early generations of Islam, when they talk about there is a Jannah in this life, whoever enters it, he will enter the Jannah in the hereafter. This is the Jannah of being close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to have this level of rida. So with the rida, the person again is not, and many examples like this. If a person repented to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from a sin that he was so attached to, in the beginning he has to go through the level of a sabr. A person used to listen to music, this is in his system, in his blood, he cannot live without it. So he decided to repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He quit it, and it's very difficult, and so much struggle. and he would fall weak sometimes, and he would listen sometimes, and then he would repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and struggle and keep on with the struggle, and it's painful, and all kinds of things come on his way to get him away from what he repented to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from. If he's truthful, sincere, and continues to struggle with himself, after some time he reaches that level of a rhythm. He's pleased, right? It does not bother him anymore. Actually, it bothers him so much now that he hears the music. If he goes to a store or something and they play something as if you're putting, something painful in his ears. What happened when he used to not live without it? It's all from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there's nothing difficult in the deen. It's only a period of time that a person would go through with sabr and patience. Then, by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, things definitely will change. But the hearts of the believers, if it continues to be the rest of their life, they're willing to do that. Because that's what the order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's why the believers are the strongest people on the face of earth. There's nothing difficult for them, as long as it's something that pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when a Muslim says, well, I cannot do it, it's difficult, and it's part of the deen, he or she are lying. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the deen easy. It's just as human beings that we struggle in many things. You just have to struggle with yourself, right? With patience, and continue to be like this till it becomes the norm. We're not talking about the optional acts of worship, we're talking about the fara'id. The fara'id is to do the obligations and to stay away from sins. That's why there is no excuse in sins, period. There's no excuse in sins. The person should not say, I cannot help it but to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's no excuse. Why? Because sins are evil, right? And a person needs to be patient to be away from it. And if he's patient and he struggles with his own self, eventually he would reach this level of being pleased, inshallah ta'ala, and to be away from it. With pleasure, not just struggle the rest of his life. But things changes. And this is how the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is the level of al-rida. It becomes the Jannah and the security of this life. One last line. Before that, he mentioned with the rida, مَنْ رَضِيَ عَنِ اللَّهِ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُ. We see every morning and every evening, رَضِيتُ بِاللَّهِ رَبَّا وَالْإِسْلَامِ دِينًا وَبِمُحَمَّدٍ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم نَبِيًّا. Whoever is pleased with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as his Rabb, pleased. And the Rabb means the sustainer, the provider, the creator, the one that gives life and death. So the believer is pleased because everything is owned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be pleased with him. And وَمَنْ رَضِيَ عَنِ اللَّهِ بِالْيَسِيرِ مِنَ الرِّزْقِ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ مِنْهُ بِالْيَسِيرِ مِنَ الْعَمَلِ. And whoever is pleased with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with whatever is given from provisions, from rizq, money, food, he's taken the means, and whatever is given, even if it's little, he's pleased. And as we said, people, when we talk about rizq, we don't have to encourage people actually to seek provisions. Right? Everybody seeks provisions. Everybody take the means. Unless a person has some problems in his understanding and thinking, or unless a person he finds it easy to beg from people and so on, which is definitely a negative thing. But most of the time, and this is not to generalize it, but the poor people, they work harder than the rich people. This is how life is. So the poor people are not lazy people. The poor people, they are working harder than the rich ones, right? So as a result of that, a person, the rizq it's been in such a way that it's all from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You will find a very smart person, but he's poor. And someone that has no means of intelligence whatsoever, and he's very rich. This is all by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the human being, he takes the means. And he seeks the help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and his heart is content, is settled, he's pleased. He's taken the means to the best of his ability, right? And then he leaves the matter to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, always pleased with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So whoever is like this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be pleased with him with whatever deeds that he do for the sake of Allah. So to take the orders of Allah by being pleased, without arguing and saying this and that, but to take it, if this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us, they are very happy. They are very happy because they got to know what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from them. So they are pleased with the orders of Allah. Then they work on themselves to to be pleased and to be patient to fulfill the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, witnessing the perfect blessing. The last line, شكر الذي أولى الخلائق فضله بالقلب والأقوال والأركان, the matter of shukr. Although each one should be given a whole lecture by itself. Talked about sabr and then rida and then now shukr, or to be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. شكر الذي, they were grateful to the one أولى الخلائق فضله, the one that gave his creation his bounty and his favor subhanahu wa ta'ala. They are grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala بالقلب والأقوال والأركان, by their hearts and their speech and their parts of their bodies. So shukr is not just by the tongue. To be grateful to Allah is to, the definition of a shukr is to acknowledge the favors of Allah first, and to confirm it, to acknowledge it. And part of being grateful to Allah is that you don't see that you deserve it. The favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that is given to you is not because you deserve it. Otherwise there's not going to be shukr. There's not going to be real gratefulness. If you deserve something, why should you be grateful to something that you deserve it, right? We don't deserve anything, because we are a creation of Allah. And He is the one that owns everything. So anything that is given to us, it's from His fadl subhanahu wa ta'ala, from His bounties subhanahu wa ta'ala, because He is the owner of all things. If you own something, it's yours. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He even give life itself, life is given, right? Life is not a right when it comes, we're talking about between the slave and his Lord. It's a right when we're talking about human beings to one another. Yes, it's to be alive, it's my right. You cannot threaten this, you cannot kill me, I cannot kill you. Like this, it's haram, it's forbidden. But when it comes to between the human being and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who's the one that gave this life? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if He takes it anytime, right? This is his khalq, this is His creation. So what a believer say, but he was too young, right? His life was taken away when he was very young, and someone else, you feel like he did not enjoy his life as much as he should have been, as if, this is against the justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's given to start with without no rights whatsoever. A person does not even deserve it to start with. And that by itself is the wisdom of Allah, that you would find death does not discriminate, right? Does not mean that a person is old, he will die, and the young won't die. This is for people to witness that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the giver of all bounties, and people need to be patient. And what really matters is what's after this life. When they die, are they going to go to Jannah or to the hellfire? So to have shukr and to be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that anything that we have, we should acknowledge that this is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and seeing that we do not deserve it. We do not deserve it. We are given by the favor from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's absolutely the fadl of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No deserving to it whatsoever. Not even a small percentage. Because it's all from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So as a result of that, if that belief is there, then the person will be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by his tongue, by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and talking about His bounties. And as we said, makes the person more truthful. He would not say, I did, and I earned, and I made, and I this. He would say, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed His favor upon me that I was able to do this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave me this, and so on. And again, the heart is what we said. He sees, witness with his heart that he does not deserve it, and it's all from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so he's content, he's pleased, he's grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He would also say that with his tongue, and then with the parts of his body, وَهُوَ كَفُّهَا الْمَعَاصِ اللَّهِ, to be away from the disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because you're using the favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in disobeying Him. When a person commits a sin, he's using one of the favors of Allah, whether his eyes, his hands, his mouth, whatever there is, and it's all favors from Allah, given without deserving to have it, and it's given for one reason, and that is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. So a person using that to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is against being grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he deserved then for that favor to be taken away from him, right? So it has no value whatsoever. unless it's used for the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if he's given something, he's grateful. If it's been taken away from him something, he's also grateful, because maybe that is better for him, because it might be of evil thing to him. And if he is guided to do an act of worship, he will witness the favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on him. If he sees himself committed a sin, then he should accuse himself and repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to be grateful to Allah that He guided him to repent to Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. So shukr is the highest level of all means of levels of ubudiyyah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the relationship between al-rida, that we just talked about, and al-shukr, is that the shukr is a higher level than al-rida. It's a higher level than to be pleased. Because al-rida is within the shukr. You cannot have shukr unless you have the rida. So you have to be pleased with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered us to have this shukr and forbade us from the opposite of it, and as if this is the purpose of our life. So this is another word of the ibadah basically. The ibadah is for the person to be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we are given life and all kinds of things in this life, for us to show the gratefulness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by worshipping Him alone. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among those who achieve these great qualities. And again, this is brief, and maybe if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us life some other time, we can talk more in details of how to achieve these levels, because these are not actions to be done once in a while. These are levels that stays with the person, right? Continue to have it at all times. He's not like instead of shukr 1 day a week or 1 month. No, it's every second in one's life. The same thing with the sabr, the same thing with the rida, and so on. Sallallahu alaihi wa sallam.